So welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Astrology Now with astrologer Babula Clement and myself, Cheryl Gottschall. So I know we're going to have another very interesting couple of weeks of planetary movements, Babula. Starting off with, I'm sure, got to remember, we've still got this background of Saturn in Aquarius going on, haven't we?
Yes, yes.
But we've got this full moon in Libra coming up on Easter Sunday. When is that? That's the 17th of April in Australia.
Yeah.
So why don't you kick it off and whatever we need to know first, give us context.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
Okay. So I think in terms of context, and relative to the full moon, we're in the Aries season. You know, the sun is now moving through the sign of Aries. So we're in the Aries lunar cycle and the Aries time of the year when the sun is going through the sign of Aries. And at this stage, the fast-moving personal planets haven't made it into Aries yet. Sometimes when the sun's in a sign, Mercury and Venus are kind of traveling in the same sign, but they're not. They're a bit behind at the moment. So Aries, the sign, a fire sign of action, and it has a lot of energy and momentum and speed. If you think of any Aries people, that everything's fast. That go. It's got that energy. So those watching, you might have noticed this. You might feel, even though there's still a lot going on in Pisces, which I will talk about, which is definitely a mitigating influence. We are in the Aries period.
And I notice that the people I'm speaking to, like they're suddenly very occupied.
Yes.
Including myself.
Yes, like the energy's moving.
Yes.
It's and I'm the same. Suddenly it's, go. Things are happening and I'm kind of making things happen. Things are happening, getting on with things. That's right. So just while, as we speak, and all of this week, well, it's actually been building up for many weeks. We have the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, and it's peaking this week. It's very strong. So we've spoken a lot about that, and we could speak for hours more about it because there's so many different ways that can express and manifest and be experienced. And it covers literal water and the energy of water and feelings and emotion and tidal waves and overwhelm.
Well, and I also think I'm starting to refer to it as the Great Delusion.
The Great Delusion.
There's a lot of delusion going on at the moment, I think.
There's a great deal of delusion.
Yes, delusion and illusion.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's that thing, because Pisces, the shadow of Pisces is fantasy, illusion, delusion, not seeing what's real, just living out of imagination. And I'm not saying imagination is important and wonderful, but just creating ideas and stories in our head without any relationship to reality.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that people are losing touch with reality.
That's right. Veils of illusion, wispy veil, and just not seeing clearly through the fog. Absolutely. So that's a big part of this as well. But there's a lot of people feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, almost like they're drowning, in so much that's happening. But on another level, this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction offers a very beautiful, more spiritual, if you like, opening and connection to source, to higher energies, to true inspiration, creativity, connection to whatever is anyone's language for this, the divine, God, the goddess, spirit. We all have different ways of speaking of these things. So, and the mystery.
Yes.
So that's another part of this. There is great opening happening and great elevation on offer, but parallel with it, as you said, there's also a lot of illusion. And what comes with illusion, usually, and delusion, at some point, it will turn up as disappointment.
Yeah, which can turn into cynicism.
Cynicism, a giving up, a kind of collapsing into despair and misery and so on. But the presence of Jupiter with this Neptune is ultimately elevating. It's also increasing and heightening whatever anyone's experiencing. It's kind of blowing it up and expanding it, making it even more so.
Yeah.
And it can be a combination of all of that. You know, we can be riding these waves of recognizing where we're deluded and living in some kind of fantasy, but also feeling tremendous inspiration. You know, it can, because this is very mutable energy, meaning it's always shift, like the sea. You know, it's not still. It might look still, even deep down there are currents moving.
Yeah.
Always move. The ground's always moving and shifting, or the waters are always moving. So that's a major kind of background energetic and theme that's still going on for people. Jupiter will, over the coming weeks, begin to pull away from Neptune because it's a faster moving planet than Neptune. And in May, it will actually go into Aries, and that's going to be a really significant energetic shift.
Yes.
Jupiter actually comes out of Pisces.
But you're busy now. Just hang on.
I know, like buckle up. Here we go.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, another couple of things as a prelude to the full moon on the 17th is that on the 15th, and most people will be watching this just after that. So on the 15th of April, the black moon Lilith is going to leave Gemini and go into Cancer. The planet Mars will leave Aquarius and go into Pisces. So Cancer and Pisces are both water signs. So where, you know, it's more water. And they'll make a trine to each other. So just a few things about that. The Mars in particular in the sign of Pisces for the next 6 weeks. Mars is a planet of action, doing, assertion. You know, it's the ruling planet of Aries. It's like the driver of Aries, if you like. So the sun's in Aries, but Mars is actually in Pisces. And how does, you know, I always like to look at both sides. You know, what are the difficulties and challenges of Mars in Pisces, a sign that it doesn't have a natural affinity with? You know, like Pisces is all letting go and surrender and opening and allowing, you know, going with the flow. And Mars says, right, let's go. So that Mars doing part of us has to learn to function in a way that's more surrendered and more allowed, like literally go with the flow and things will happen. Go with the flow, you'll get things done. Don't push or try and override it with my idea of what I think should happen. You know, it's like really trusting and following intuition, and then things will work and move. But it has to be in a flow, in an intuitive flow.
Mars doesn't particularly like that, though, does it?
No.
Because it's about direction, action, do it, go.
Exactly. And wants to be in the driver's seat.
Yes, exactly. So could there be a little bit of a push-pull there?
Yes, it's not a particularly easy one. And the other thing is that I know I've been saying this a lot lately because there's a lot of Pisces energy that's been around for a while now. People often suddenly just go, even on the day it goes in, they go, what's happened to my energy?
Yes.
You know, because later in 6 months' time when Mars goes into Aries, well, you know, when Jupiter's in Aries, that's going to be a lot of fire and a lot of action. But in the meantime, yeah, our energy levels might drop. We might be feeling like, oh, I just can't be bothered anymore. I just want to go on holiday. If you can, do it. Great time to do it, you know. But yeah. But action has to come really from a place of surrender, allowing, inner guidance, intuition, and then it will work actually really well. You know. Yeah. And just to touch on the black moon Lilith in Cancer.
Yes.
So this is of particular interest to me. I've always been interested in this. And just to say that, just briefly, the black moon has got a lot to do with how the feminine principle has been repressed and denied and controlled and subjugated, vilified for, let's say it like it is, thousands of years, actually. And when she's in a particular sign, and we all have it somewhere in our chart in a particular sign, that's where we experience and how we experience those energies of repression. And it can bring up a lot of emotion. And Cancer is a water sign of feeling. So for the following 9 months, then, all kinds of issues can come up around the feminine, mother, nurturing, home, family, emotions. We can get really stirred up. Children, babies, what's going on with children, little ones. It can get at times quite challenging, because it can bring up a lot of stuff for people. But,
what about the wild woman?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, or the lioness, or the spiritual warrior, or the
absolutely. And in Cancer, because actually when we move through all those more kind of challenging energies of it, and connect with the real power of the black moon Lilith in a sign, this can become, the lioness protecting her babies, her cubs.
Yeah.
Don't mess with her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You don't get between a mother and her babies.
Yeah. And this could be like, it doesn't necessarily have to be your blood family, but anyone that you feel you're close to. Could be friends that you feel like a family, or certainly your inner circle. Or
that's right, those close bonds and connections. So we feel like an emotional bond and a soul bond. That's right. So a lot of it can really bring up a lot of feelings, but it can also shift a lot of old patterns and patterning around family issues and generational issues. Great time to be doing some deeper work around those kinds of themes. And look, for some people, while the black moon's going through Cancer, there may be loss. There may be loss of a loved one. It happens. It's what happens in life. But for some, it could bring up those, really old grief, or, strong emotional responses that get triggered with the passing of a loved one, someone that's close to you in your intimate life. Yeah. So then on April the 17th.
Yep, got a few going on there.
Yep, east coast of Australia. So now the southern states no longer have daylight savings. So we're all in alignment with the time, which is great. It's in the morning around 5 a.m. on the 17th, which is Sunday, as you said, Easter Sunday. Full moon. So the sun will be at 26 degrees, 45 minutes of Aries, opposite the full moon, 26, 45 degrees of Libra. I've been going outside in the evening, and I have a great view of the sky from where I am now, and just, watching it growing and getting brighter every night. The Aries Libra polarity. Aries, individuality, me. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing what I have to do. Go, push forward, action, fire. Libra, the polar opposite, the polarity. It's all peace and harmony, relationship, negotiation, discussion.
Equalizer.
The equalizer. It's a great word for it. Win-win. Let's talk this through, and let's figure out how this will work for both of us. Whereas Aries is just, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So again, there's no judgment on which one's better. We might have a personal preference. Of course, we all do. But so the Libra full moon is a period of a few days when it's great to, like, relationship themes might be really highlighted. Somebody might get, like anger might flare up. in a relationship situation.
Yeah.
And that Libra full moon is an opportunity to actually, once the heat has cooled down, to actually sit down and say, actually, we need to talk about this.
Yeah. Well, I think too that Libra was going to placate the ruffled waters from stirred up by Aries, isn't it? So there's that ability.
That's right.
Fingers crossed for those people out there who have that happening in their relationship.
Yeah.
But the potential's there, providing you do it the right way and you can placate that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's like in the world, war is a topic that's, to the forefront at the moment. So Aries is a sign that's inclined to that. If there's a difficult situation, you just go in there guns blazing. Libra is about negotiation.
Yes.
Coming to some kind of agreements, making peace through negotiation, discussion, perhaps even, it's a sign that's to do with the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they make great diplomats, counselors, mediators, that sort of thing.
That's right.
The downside with Libra, though, is it can be such a good ability to see both sides. It can't make up its mind which is the way to go,
Exactly. And actually will often prefer to sit on the fence rather than actually step up and say, well, actually, this is what I think.
Yes.
Want.
Yes.
So, those watching might have perhaps a strong Aries influence in their chart. So they relate to that Aries energy. And others might be more aligned with the Libra. So whenever there's a full moon, it's always this thing of trying to find the harmony and the balance between that sun in Aries and that full moon shining brightly in Libra. So hopefully it will bring a bit of negotiating peace to certain situations.
I'm sort of getting this image in my mind as we talk. I often get images that come forward, and it's like, sun in Aries and moon in Libra is like a bull in a china shop. Because Libra loves all those beautiful, pretty, fine things. And you get this Aries that comes in and it's like boom, 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 boom. Someone might stomp over your beautiful garden, for example, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
An Aries might stomp over a Libran's garden, they go, and they go, oh, it's just a plant, that sort of thing.
Right. Or, that Aries energy will swing around and knock over your prized vase or something, that you treasured and it's so beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Aries can be a bit sort of rambunctious. It's got so much energy and fire.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but there's a really important thing to be aware of with this full moon. Sometimes a new or a full moon, and we've seen a lot of them lately, are in alignment with another planet. So we have to absolutely take into consideration the influence of that other planet.
Oh, I don't want to know.
Tell me.
I don't want to know. I know what it is. I don't want to
know. All right, let's go there. It's our friend Pluto.
Yes.
So, if I can just hold this up briefly, there's the sun. This is the full moon. There's the moon opposite the sun. That's the full moon. And there they are, both of them forming an exact square to our friend Pluto.
Yeah.
So Pluto is and it's a tight square, like the degrees are really close. So squares are always aspects of tension, of pressure. So there's a certain stress. We all have, almost everyone has squares in their chart, but they're people worry about them, but the fact is they're the ones that push things to a point where we have to work through something and get something done or grow and evolve. They're really important. But yeah, it's intense, and the nature of Pluto is that he's very intense.
Yes, very.
So it's going to bring an intensity, and that can mean, you know what? I just saw something. It's like something, and full moons are like this anyway, where something comes to a head. This cycle started 2 weeks earlier at the new moon in Aries. and the moon goes around and comes to the opposite point, that is the peak of the cycle. Things come to a head. Both the sun and the moon are in full light. And so something comes to a head, but with the squares to Pluto, boy, they're really going to come to a head. Like, it's almost like this full moon will be very critical in some way. What will be the outcome? And this applies to anything in our individual situation and things going on the world stage.
So have you got some examples of that on the world, how we might see that play out?
Well, I mean, there's so much going on in the world, isn't there, on every single front. I mean, we're leading up to an election.
Yes.
Heaven help us is all I can say.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And I think we're likely to see some dramas, like major dramas, you know, big, sudden, dramatic events playing out. And, you know, it's that thing where, you know, a friend or someone in the family will say, oh my God, did you just hear what happened?
Yeah.
No, what was it? You know, something huge like that. You know, speaking of what's going on in the Ukraine, for example, you know, it's a very complex situation. People have got all sorts of opinions about it. And personally, I don't think anyone really knows what's going on, except the people involved. But, you know, there could be some really critical thing that occurs there. And it's always with these strong Pluto contacts, it's something really powerful, intense, critical, and wow, how are we going to deal with this?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? But the potential for it to be really transformative in a positive way is always there, you know, because Pluto is death and rebirth. So there might need to be a death of some kind, literally and symbolically, but followed by some kind of a rebirth, like a clearing. You know, I often think of medical astrology. Pluto is the process in the body of the cleansing of toxins, the purification. It's not pleasant in the process, but then there's a clearer, cleaner. It's like cleaning, you know, cleaning the cobwebs in a very mild. That's a very mild way of expressing it. So yeah, it could be intense, and for certain individuals who have points on their chart around these degrees of Aries, Libra, Capricorn, or Cancer, I do, then that full moon will be particularly significant and heightened. It doesn't mean it's going to be terrible for you. It just could mean that something's going to be, it's going to be strong. It's going to be a bit intense. And something might come to a head, but sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it is strong. And, you know, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction continues to be in place during all of that. Yeah. Okay. So you know, more might kind of come up as I go on about that. But it seems to me, for months now, almost every time we talk about a new or a full moon, there's some other really powerful planetary influence, you know, like with the new moon 2 weeks ago, the start of this cycle, it was Chiron, wasn't it? The wounded healer.
Yeah.
So he's still very much an important part of the cycle.
Yeah, I saw it on the chart when you held up before.
Yes, that's right. It's So all right. So the following day, well, pretty much around the same time, but to be precise, the following day there's an exact conjunction of Mercury, the messenger, the communicator, now in Aries, making a conjunction or a joining up with the planet Uranus. So that's still true on the actual day of the full moon. Mercury is conjunct Uranus. Now that's an interesting one because because Mercury and Uranus have an affinity with each other. in astrology, we often say, Mercury being the mind, communication, the messenger, we often say that Uranus is like the higher octave or the higher vibrational expression of Mercury. It's the higher mind, the cosmic mind, the universal mind, big universal ideas. So when these two come together, that's very stimulating for the mental plane. In Taurus, though, that's much more grounded. But I have a feeling with this, and given that it's actually part of the full moon story, there could be some shocks and surprises with announcements and so on.
Okay.
Mercury conjunct Uranus.
Yes.
A sudden announcement that people go, what?
Another one.
I mean, because we're in an election cycle, that's kind of par for the course, but there might be, revelations, shocking, surprising revelations, or information that breaks through. Yeah. Good time for anyone.
Wait to see.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see on that one. So it's.
Sorry, I was going to ask you on a personal level, though. I mean, because that happens to be Easter Sunday when a lot of families and friends get together. I mean, maybe that could be playing out in our personal lives.
Absolutely.
With that, and friends go, what?
Absolutely. So Easter Sunday and Monday, full moon, Mercury, Uranus conjunction.
Yeah.
It could, if you say that, it could also be unexpected conversations. We make assumptions about what we think people think about certain things, and suddenly often we can be really surprised. So there might be, for some people, some breakthroughs in relationship dynamics.
I was thinking that. It's coming to me as that. I'm thinking of the Libra and the full moon. And Mercury.
That's right.
Some words could be spoken that could be healing and harmonizing.
Exactly.
Even you never expected people to say it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Could there be some apologies?
There could be.
Yeah.
and there might be, because there could be a clearing of the space or a clearing of our assumptions or something. There might be like, oh my God, I didn't realize that you felt that way or you thought that way. And which can bring people closer together. I mean, this same energy can also cause real rifts between people as well.
Yes, with that Uranus in there.
Exactly.
Snap.
Yeah.
Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch that hatchet in your back.
That's Pluto. Yeah. But I do feel there will be, certain revelations that will be happening in both in the personal realm and in more in the public sphere as well. On the 20th, the sun will leave Aries. And it will move into the sign of Taurus, where it will be for 4 weeks. So that's a real change of pace. When the sun's in Aries, we speak of that as the true beginning of the year. Like, okay, let's get moving. Let's move this thing forward. Yeah. And so Aries is the sign of the pioneer, the entrepreneur, the ideas people, competitive sports people, that kind of thing. It's a competitive spirit, fiery energy. When the sun moves into the next sign, we're now looking at how to ground that energy, to build, to manifest. It slows down. If we would look at the vibration, say, of Aries, it would be just pow, like an arrow shot off.
Yeah.
Straight, direct, fast. If we looked at the vibration of Taurus, it's like slow, everything slows down. And it's closer to ground.
It's stable.
stable.
Yeah, very stable.
It's right, like a tree with its, like you could say Aries is like the little shoot that just pushes its way up into the sunlight and begins the process of growing. Taurus, that little seedling, is now beginning to put its roots down into the ground, getting earthed, getting anchored. And I think it's a really important thing for us in this time of so much instability and, there's solar flares going off. There's so much going on everywhere. We're being bombarded from every direction.
Yeah.
Getting earthed, I think, is just so critical for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And when that comes to people, you might have like an Aries says, I've got this idea, and they go and do, they get it started, but the Taurus comes along and the Aries is on to the next project.
Exactly.
The Taurus says, okay, let's do it. Let's build the foundations.
Exactly.
Let's do it and build it and get it done. Yeah.
That's right. And make it real and bring something to completion.
Yeah.
Aries gets bored.
Yes, they do.
At a certain way along that process, it's on, as you said, it's on to the next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, great time, particularly for us here in Australia, as we're coming into autumn now. Sun in Taurus, great time to be working in the garden. If you've been thinking about planting stuff, seasonally it's perfect, and astrologically it's perfect.
Yeah. And which I did yesterday.
There you go. That's right. And I've been preparing some beds, sort of getting it ready. So, Taurus is it's probably the most fertile sign.
Yes.
Even for women having babies, it's very fertile. It's about the fecundity of the earth, the richness of the earth, growing things. It's voluptuous, it's full, great. And to just make the most of that time, to just get out on the earth, even if you haven't got a garden, just get outside on the earth, ground, slow down, build, get practical.
Yeah. Yes. Hands in the soil.
Hands in the soil.
Do other things with your hands. Yeah.
That's right. I've got a lot of Taurian energy, not in myself, but in my family. And so I grew up with that, just hardworking, practical, pragmatic, organized, sensible.
Now I'm thinking the difference between the difference between Taurus and Libra, because my grandmother was a wonderful gardener and she was a Libran. But it's different, isn't it, with Taurus?
It is. She might have had Taurus rising or a Taurus moon or something too. Libra, like if Libra's creating a garden and so they don't have Taurus, it's a thing of beauty.
It was always a beautiful flower garden. Yeah. It wasn't a veggie garden. It wasn't practical.
Exactly. Exactly. It's, and it would have instinctively beautiful feng shui, and you'd walk in there and just go, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And you feel good. That's a thing of beauty. Exactly. Taurus will be probably pulling out all the flowers, and go, I've got to grow vegetables and fruit trees.
Yes, it's with a purpose, isn't it?
Exactly. And it wants a practical result, something that's useful. Yeah. So, but yeah, did she have a veggie garden as well?
No.
Okay.
We had fruit trees. Yeah.
But it was for beauty.
Yeah, it was for beauty. Yeah. And she was always painting inside the house and outside the house. And you could, I'd go to school and come home, the lounge room would be a different color. And
that's right.
But she did it all herself. And the house always looked like it was a display home. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. She probably would have been, born at a different time, become an interior designer or feng shui practitioner or something like that. That's very liberal.
Yeah. And she was a singer dancer too. So
wow. Yeah. Whereas my Taurian dad was, a farmer, a gardener, he worked really hard, did all those Taurian things, very hands-on. So Sun in Taurus. Now, on the 28th, we have Venus still in Pisces.
Oh, yes.
Virtually all this month. So let's talk about Venus in Pisces.
Yeah.
Venus loves being in Pisces. It's not the sign she rules, but it's a sign that we say Venus is exalted in Pisces, meaning it's a very happy place for her to be. Because, you know, one of the expressions of Pisces is just this very fine attunement with things that are beautiful, like this fine sense of beauty around us. And Venus here, I mean, Venus in mythology, the myth says, the Greek myth tells us that Venus Aphrodite was born out of the sea, you know, and she came to the shores on a big shell, you know, and the little cherubs and angels were all guiding her on. And, you know, and here she's this goddess of beauty. She's coming out of the sea, which is very Pisces. And it's a fantastic placement for anything to do with the arts and imagination and creativity, the muse, channeling beauty, you know, or music or art or something like that. Very romantic in the relationship sense, but also just in the artistic, creative sense. So it's a lovely, lovely time for anyone who's creative. I mean, I've been very busy lately, but I've managed to create a bit of space for myself in the next week or two to actually get back and do some painting. And I think and I'm just thinking now, you know, perfect time while Venus is in Pisces, you know, while the creative muse is kind of very available.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it is. Oh, so what I wanted to say on the 28th,
changes.
Venus will make a conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. So that can be a very beautiful combination for romance, for time out, for relaxation, for anything creative, artistic. It can be a bit kind of dreamy in a beautiful way. You know, if we can take time out and just kind of drift a bit and go with the flow, or spend time with a loved one, you know, just kind of go away for a day or two and just have a bit of nice time together. You know, it's a wonderful time to do that, but it could also be very beautiful for any kind of creative endeavor. Some people are going to meet someone and fall madly in love on that conjunction.
Yeah.
Over those days.
Well, we're having our sound bath the night before.
Oh, that is
sound bath.
Perfect. Oh my God, that's so perfect.
Yes.
Just lying down and completely letting go and just letting all that incredibly beautiful sound just float around you and through. It's gorgeous. Yes, I'll be there. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really fantastic.
So that was the 28th.
So that's on the 28th. Now on the 30th and around those days, there's something quite strong that will be happening. Pluto will turn retrograde. So around that whole week, Pluto's going to be stationary. Now, we've had it in a way pretty good since about, when was it? Sometime in February. All the planets have been in direct motion, meaning nothing's been retrograde. So now we're going to begin a period of quite a few months when slowly, one by one, different planets, the outer planets, will begin to change direction. So that can be, I've noticed when a planet is stationary and changing direction, particularly when it's about to turn retrograde, its energy can be very strong and very strongly felt.
Yeah. And this is in Capricorn.
In Capricorn at 28 degrees and 35 minutes. So Pluto's sort of over this next 2 years or so is making its way through those final degrees of Capricorn. So things are intense in the world and in life. That's an important thing. We'll probably talk more about that too when we do the new moon, which is on the 1st of May.
Yeah.
That new moon will include this stationary Pluto. So it can be a strong time. It can be a few days when we feel a bit heavy, and things can get a bit intense, you know, and then once Pluto gets moving again in that retrograde motion, we sort of adapt and get used to it. But for those few days, it can be really quite a strong influence, you know.
Yeah.
Lord of the underworld.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or things that are down there.
Down there, that's right. Down there in the basement and in the
Yes.
unconscious, and that's right. That's right. But you know, life is complex. The astrology shows that, as well as just being human shows us that. On the same day, Mercury will come out of earthy Taurus and go into Gemini.
Okay.
So Mercury loves being in Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini. He's at home in his own sign. Be ready for about no longer than 3 weeks, because on the 10th of May, he will actually go retrograde in Gemini. So Mercury going into Gemini really activates the mind, communication, conversation, information, messages, all forms of communication, learning, reading, and it can make things, you know, really busy. Mercury in Gemini is busy. Yes. Those of us who work in any fields of communication or forms of education, I've always found that like just a really busy time. If we think we're busy with communications now, whoa.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, that's something to keep in mind, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's.
I mean, it can be kind of fun too, because he's happy there. You know, and there can be lots of meeting up with friends and socializing, and
lots of socializing, I find.
Lots of socializing. That's right. You know, and flitting about, you know, day by day.
And I find too with me, because I've got a moon in Gemini, yes. And but with anything happening like with Gemini like that, I find that I'm always on the phone. Or those people ring me all day, you know, like, and they're long conversations, you know, not short. Hi, how are you? I want to tell you this. Bye. No,
that's right.
2 hours later,
people want to talk.
I know. And I've had one of those days today. I've been talking since 8 a.m. and it's nearly 4 p.m.
That's right. And maybe, you know, they're kind of doing that with you too, because you've got a Gemini moon.
Yes.
You know, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So, yes. And we'll talk more about that next time as well, because we will then include the Mercury retrograde in Gemini, because during that retrograde period, it will also go back into Taurus, because it turns retrograde only at 4 degrees, like it just gets into the early part of Gemini and then goes back. So that's interesting. What we have to talk about is that we're approaching eclipse season.
Yes.
And so the prelude to an eclipse is always quite strong, like that energy of the eclipse is building. So the eclipse will be on the 1st of May at the new moon. So it's a solar eclipse on the new moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus. It's a doozy.
That is a doozy.
It is a doozy. Yeah. So it's interesting that solar eclipse will occur on that Pluto station, you know, within that day or two of Pluto being stationary, turning retrograde. So that it will be quite a strong one. And when I say strong, I don't mean to worry people. I mean, you know, we've all lived through many eclipses. They're often catalysts for change, triggers for major things to take place, which can often be fantastic things or things that can have a really great outcome, you know, but things happen, things change, things get triggered. They're catalysts. you know, particularly with Uranus right on that new moon eclipse. That's big change, a big catalyst and a trigger for things to happen.
Yeah.
And I would say because it's in Taurus, you know, stuff around finances, individually and in the big picture.
Big picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, stay tuned. Things are going to happen in that realm, very much so.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting. Oh, gee whiz. As usual, there's always lots to chew on and
It's lots.
And chew the cud over. And because you just don't know how these things are going to play out, do you?
You actually don't.
So many different ways, so many diverse ways that this can happen. It's not until after they happen then you go, and
then it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And they affect us all differently because they hit different things in our own individual charts. You know, one person can be hugely impacted by an eclipse.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And another person not so much.
Yeah.
Because it's not really hitting something in their own personal chart.
Yes.
You know?
And for example, on Saturn returns, not everyone has something major happen every 29 years, you know, but a lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. I have a friend who's nothing's happened.
That's quite unusual with the Saturn return.
Yeah.
And it may not be until a few years afterwards they look back and go, oh, yeah, I can see how much has shifted since that.
Yeah.
But quite often people have a very big story. You know, I often ask people, you know, what was going on in your life between 28 and 30? And like most people immediately go, oh, yes, that was when.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting when you meet sometimes someone who can't really recall anything significant.
No, that's right. And that might be part of the situation. They don't recall it or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Or it mightn't have been an actual event. It might have just been some kind of general shift that was going on.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, that thing of like, why are different people affected at different things because their chart's different? The same is true for nations, you know, and world leaders. Like sometimes you see certain countries, their chart, because countries have charts, sometimes they're getting really hit by very strong energies, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the charts of a lot of countries right now.
Yeah. Well, there you go, everyone.
And don't worry, we've all, you know, like those of us have been around for a few years, you know, we've all been through many of these big energies.
I know.
You know, and we grow and evolve and mature and develop. It's a good thing. But, you know, it must be said, the whole planet's going through a pretty strong time. For quite a few years, yes.
That's right. Yes, I believe it's about a decade.
Yes, the world is going to look very different in a few years' time and in the following decade. And I hope I'm around to see it. I intend to be.
Yes, and I'm
so curious.
I know, me too. I mean, I'm thinking, wow, what a great time to be alive on planet Earth, even though it sucks big time.
I know.
It's like, wow, like who would have thought? There's a lot of who would have thoughts going through my head constantly, you know.
That's right.
And you see how quickly it's happened.
Yep.
How life's changed and how young children may not grow up with the similar childhood to what we have, which was freer.
That's right.
And more carefree, and
absolutely it was
not controlled, or much less controlled. And
absolutely, yeah,
it happens very quickly.
Yeah, such a different reality, even generationally. Like, you know, our adult children had a different childhood to us, and now I look at my grandchildren and the world they're growing up in, and their reality is so different. Wonder what it will be like for their children.
Yes. And before we sign off, I just want to ask everyone, if you have watched this and you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, because I'm coming across people all the time who say, yes, I listen to your podcast, and there's like it. If you like it, press that little thumb underneath the screen.
Because it helps, doesn't it?
It does. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure that you get the every Astrology Now. That's when it's uploaded.
That's right. It helps to sort of get it out there more.
It does, yeah.
So that more people get to see it and so on.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. There's a mind full of stuff to cogitate on and percolate over, that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's always like different things that we're going through and talking about. They're all sort of happening at the same time. So it's, it can get complex, but it does help to unpack it a bit.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you once again, Babula. That's been really great. Always great to spend time with you and hear all that information.
It'll be easier to digest when we get into Gemini.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, the mind will be boom, boom, boom. Got it.
Right. That's right.
All right. So until next time, bye, everyone, and stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.